Charlie Cox is as perfectly cast in the role of Matt Murdock as Robert Downey Jr. was as Tony Stark, or Hugh Jackman was as Wolverine. He's brought that character, and all his rage and compassion and Catholic guilt and righteous indignation and ferocious sense of justice, right off the pages of a comic book. He's breathed life into the devil of Hell's Kitchen, the same way Tobey Maguire did with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, or Ryan Reynolds did with the Merc with a Mouth. But, thanks to a series of studio mergers, behind-the-scenes drama, and a lot of bad decisions by Hollywood suits, Cox's Murdock has had a rough go of it over the past decade. In 2015, Daredevil premiered on Netflix, instantly redeemed the much-maligned Ben Affleck movie, and became one of the streamer's most acclaimed original shows, early in the days of its original programming. But, after 3 seasons, Netflix canceled Daredevil, and The Man Without Fear became The Man Without a Show. Cox popped up every now and then, with cameos alongside Spider-Man and She-Hulk, but fans never stopped pestering Marvel to bring him back full-time. Eventually, Marvel Studios relented, and Daredevil returned on Disney Plus as Daredevil, Born Again. After the reboot's jaw-dropping Season 2 finale, there are now 5 full seasons of Daredevil out there in the streaming sphere. So, here's every Daredevil season, from the OG show to Born Again, ranked from worst to best. 5 Daredevil, Born Again Season 1. Image via Disney Plus. The first season of Daredevil, Born Again wasn't necessarily a bad season of television, but it is the worst season of this franchise by far, and it's all thanks to behind-the-scenes drama. It's the messiest and least consistent season of the series, because it had the messiest and least consistent production. Marvel initially hired Matt Corman and Chris Ord as the head writers, and they wrote, and partially shot, a very different show, a light-hearted case-of-the-week legal drama with a brand-new supporting cast around Matt Murdock, before the studio shut it down over concerns that it would alienate fans with its jarring tonal shift. Showrunner Dario Scardapane was brought in to rework the reboot as more of a direct continuation of the Netflix show, with a darker tone and more serialized structure, but he could only work with what he was given. The resulting show is arguably much better than the original version would have been, or at least closer to the spirit of the Netflix series, but there's still plenty of evidence of the completely different show it once was. It's a Frankenstein's monster cobbled together from 2 diametrically opposed takes on the same material. For Daredevil Season 2. The weakest season of the original series was the second. Just like Born Again's debut season, it's not a bad season of TV, it's just not quite the masterpiece that the other seasons are. It's the awkward middle child of the Netflix series, and it shares a lot of the same problems as Iron Man 2 in that, in its ambitious world building, it loses sight of the titular hero. While the first and third seasons are focused squarely on Matt and his personal journey, Season 2 gets sidetracked setting up the larger Defenders-verse. Elektra and the Punisher and the Hand all get plenty of screen time, and those characters are all great additions to the show, but it's at the expense of Matt's own story. Still, Daredevil Season 2 has a lot to offer. The overwhelming threat of the Hand's forces leads to some of the show's most spectacular fight scenes, and John Bernthal's Frank Castle was a spot-on adaptation of the iconic character right out of the gate. 3 Daredevil, Born Again Season 2. After the first season was Frankenstein together from Corman and Ord's original script and Scardapane's reimagining, Daredevil, Born Again finally settled into the right rhythm in Season 2. Scardapane created this season from the ground up, and he absolutely nailed the tone and the atmosphere and the general air of prestige TV, so it finally feels like a true continuation of the Netflix series. It has the same dark, gritty, violent tone as the Netflix series, and it brings back familiar faces like Karen and Jessica Jones in supporting roles. It wasn't a perfect season, it certainly had its fair share of flaws, from the frustrating scarcity of action sequences in the early episodes to the increasingly soapy and contrived B.B/Blake storyline, but the hits far outweighed the misses. After playing it safe in Season 1, Born Again started taking much bigger swings in Season 2, like Bullseye's unexpectedly poignant redemption arc and Vanessa Fisk's untimely death. Born Again's jaw-dropping Season 2 finale stuck the landing and solidified it as one of the best Daredevil seasons yet. It delivered an abundance of shocking twists, and it made up for the lack of action in the earlier episodes with a season's worth of bloodshed in the last 20 minutes. 2 Daredevil Season 3. The reboot took its title from the Born Again comic book arc as a tongue-in-cheek nod to the cancelled Netflix show being reborn, so to speak, on Disney+. But Daredevil already adapted the Born Again storyline in its 3rd season, and it got the themes just right. Season 3 leans heavily on the Catholic guilt that sets Daredevil apart from other superheroes. As Matt hides out in a church, at times, it feels more like a Scorsese movie than a Marvel show. Before he was redeemed in the reboot, Wilson Bethel's Bullseye was an appropriately sadistic villain, and the season did a great job of contrasting Matt's compassion with Bullseye's coldness, almost like the Man with the Golden Gun depicting Scaramanga as the anti-James Bond, a dark inversion of the hero. Daredevil's original Netflix run went out with a bang with Season 3, but there's still one season that stands head and shoulders above it in the overall ranking. 1. Daredevil Season 1. Very few shows peak in their first season. In fact, the opposite is usually the case. Seinfeld, The Office, Parks and Rec, Buffy, It's Always Sunny, and Star Trek, TNG all struggled to find their feet in their first season, and ultimately became TV classics. But sometimes, a series gets off to an incredible start with a jaw-dropping first season, and then it's all downhill from there. We've seen it with Stranger Things, True Detective, Fargo, The Boys, The Last of Us, and The Handmaid's Tale, and we've also seen it with Daredevil. The action in that first season has an intensity and a brutality to rival The Raid or John Wick, and it has a generational hallway fight that gives Old Boy